Story 1. It really silences the hunger demon. Other than being sick, I had never experienced it being quiet. This might be dangerous for a person who doesn't need to lose that much weight and doesn't have the hunger demon. They just wouldn't eat. I don't think about food as much now. For me, it doesn't make me want to overeat. After a certain point, everything just goes, nope, I am done. I thought everybody was like me and just had better control. It is mind-blowing. I just didn't know it was different for some people. Story 2. I have been on medical treatment for about 2 years now. My blood sugar is controlled, and my weight is decreasing. I feel better, but I have to make sure I stay hydrated and take fiber and electrolytes. It led to my diagnosis of thyroid cancer. I lost enough weight that a large lymph node became really noticeable. It did not cause my cancer, as there was evidence of cancer years earlier. Story 3. I have been on tirzepatide for 2 years and 3 months. I went from 358 to 172, and I have maintained 172 for 6 months. I will likely stay on this for life, and I am fine with that. I am finally healthy. Story 4. Ozempic is receiving a lot of attention, but tirzepatide is objectively better for weight loss with fewer side effects. It has truly changed my life. I lost 60 pounds. My sleep apnea is gone. I have more energy and experience fewer body aches. At 40, I feel better than I did at 30. Story 5. I dropped 12 pounds in 4 weeks, and a further 6 pounds in the 4 weeks since I stopped using it. I primarily used it to reset my thinking about food and to stop eating just because I was bored. My wife has lost almost 26 pounds in the 8 weeks she has been on it and will be stopping soon, as she is nearly at her target weight. She plans to continue on her own, just like I will after that. I experienced every side effect. I was tired, nauseous, had diarrhea, felt dizzy, lacked energy, and had sulfur-smelling gas. It was difficult for 4 weeks, but I persevered because I am both stubborn and needed a mental reset. My wife had side effects for about 2 days, then experienced no side effects after that. I would suggest that if you are struggling to start your weight loss journey on your own, it's worth the cost. However, if you can manage it by yourself, the potential side effects may not justify using it as a shortcut. Story 6. I have been on Wegovy for about 4 months now, and I have lost around 10 pounds. The biggest change for me was how it reduced my cravings for excess food and alcohol. That doesn't mean I don't get hungry or want a beer after work, but it allows me to stop when I know that I have had enough. This has truly been life-changing for me. Story 7. My diet was terrible. I was eating fast food every single day, sometimes twice. It led to depression, and my cholesterol levels were extremely high. I tried many times to break the habit, but without success. Then I spoke to a friend about dopamine, my pleasure-seeking behaviors, and my problem with fast food, and he mentioned Mounjaro. That was all I needed to give it a try. Mounjaro changed my life overnight. I immediately stopped eating fast food. I can't really eat it anymore. It makes me feel sick. I have almost no attraction to it. I now cook well-balanced meals for my wife and me, and I enjoy it for the first time in my life. I'm over the moon. I'm 5 weeks in and down 8 kilograms. I'm not particularly focused on the weight loss. It's a nice bonus, but my goal was to change my eating habits, and it did that wonderfully. Another unexpected benefit is that I'm saving money. Mounjaro is cheaper than all the fast food I used to eat. This has been the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. Story 8. I'm 10 months in on tirzepatide, and I've lost 85 pounds, which is 21% of my starting weight. It has been life-altering. I have more energy and better sleep. My blood tests are all within the normal ranges for the first time in my adult life. I can still eat almost whatever I want, just not nearly the quantities I used to consume. No matter what I tried before, diet, exercise, fasting, or anything else, the small amounts of weight I lost always came back and then some. Now I'm down 8 inches at my waist and still shrinking. My friends have taken to calling this the disembiggening. If you struggle with weight loss or obesity and your insurance will cover the medication, consider starting it as soon as you can. Story 9. I have been on Wegovy for about 2.5 months and have lost 40 pounds so far. One thing I noticed is that it makes food taste better, which is unusual. The only issue I have experienced is constipation, so I try to drink 8 cups of water a day and take fiber supplements. Sulfur burps can be annoying, and I also experience some gas. It is interesting how it suppresses hunger and slows down digestion. I am a fan. Story 10. Started on November 3rd, 2024. I have diabetes with an A1C of 10.6. I am 5 feet 9 inches tall and weigh 221 pounds. This morning I weighed in at 157.2 pounds. Last week my A1C was 5.1. I was on 6 different medications, but now I am only taking Mounjaro. I started at 2.5 milligrams and am now at 7.5 milligrams, which I will most likely maintain. Feels like a miracle drug. Story 11. I have lost 13 pounds in just over 4 weeks, and I wish I had started earlier. It has completely changed how I think about food and what I want to eat. I used to drink a full bottle of full-fat cola every day and have not had a sip since my first vaccination. Chips are too salty now, and I have not craved chocolate, so I have not had any of that either. I feel fuller for longer after a meal. The appetite suppression has been strong, and I now have to force myself to eat sometimes, which is a strange feeling. I wish it were cheaper, but it is worth every penny. Story 12. I have been taking Zepbound for 14 months. I have lost a total of 57 pounds, have my blood pressure under control, reduced my A1C to 5.2, cured my sleep apnea, and stopped my loose bowel movements. This medication is everything they say it is and more. Story 13. A 5 feet 7 inches woman on Wegovy started at 212 pounds in July 2024 and is down to 160 pounds as of today. For the first time in my life, I am not constantly thinking about food. It is easy to eat and stop when I am full. I also find it easier to make healthy food choices, and I am more interested in working out. My cravings for alcohol have significantly decreased as well. I have managed all of my side effects with vitamins and supplements. I experienced some nausea and constipation at the beginning, but I am fine now. My dosage is 2.7 milligrams. Story 14. I developed bad eating habits, so since I own medical clinics that sold it, I decided to give it a try. Semaglutide made me very sick, so I switched to tirzepatide. I lost 60 pounds in about 8 months. I weaned myself off the drug and have kept the weight off. The biggest issue is that people become too reliant on it. Use it, learn proper eating habits, and wean yourself off it. Story 15. On Zepbound for a few months and down more than 40 pounds. It's truly amazing. I can eat half of something now and then just feel full and stop, instead of feeling a deep-seated need to keep eating while there's still food in front of me. I feel like it fixes whatever hunger/fullness signals my body was previously lacking. Trying to lose weight in the past with only a small calorie deficit made me irritable, lightheaded, and mentally foggy. But now I'm consistently maintaining a larger caloric deficit without any of those side effects. I've had some indigestion, but I found that it mainly happened if I skipped breakfast or ate too much processed food. Making sure I eat breakfast and keeping the rest of my diet somewhat healthy has mostly eliminated the indigestion. The biggest downside seems to be some muscle loss, which is exactly what I would expect with a large, sustained calorie deficit. I started weightlifting a few years ago and have noticed my lift stall or even go down a bit while taking the medication. I'm compensating by trying to keep my protein intake high and stay consistent at the gym, and it seems to be working. Story 16. For context, I have type 1 diabetes and grew up with a body mass index hovering around 30 for most of my life. I had a dysfunctional relationship with food and often maintained a caloric deficit through exercise, which was often negated by carbohydrates to treat hypoglycemia. I am about 6 feet 2 inches tall, or 188 centimeters, and at my heaviest, I weighed 275 pounds, or approximately 120 kilograms. My A1C has always been controlled, usually between 6% and 6.4% for the last decade. I am also a clinical pharmacist, so I can navigate the system better. I started using Ozempic in 2020. It helped my blood sugars a bit, and I lost approximately 40 pounds in 4 months. It improved my exercise habits. There was definitely some nausea and loss of appetite, but nothing too severe. I still ate 1 to 2 meals a day, but significantly reduced my snacking and stabilized my blood sugars. I never exceeded the 1 milligram dose and only tried it once due to the side effects. However, after about 6 months, my insurance denied the coupon, so I stopped for about 8 months. I think I regained half the weight slowly, and my snacking increased. I got back to around 250 pounds. I received about 2 months of tirzepatide from my endocrinologist. Initially, it was amazing. I lost about 30 pounds in 2 months while focusing on a high-protein diet. My blood sugars were essentially perfect, ranging from 80 to 120 throughout the day with my insulin pump. I felt amazing. My body felt less inflamed, my mind was clear, and although I experienced some intense nausea, I felt better overall. My knees and back improved, and I was no longer clouded by thoughts of food or the need to drink or relax. I could just work. Once again, it was great for about 3 to 4 months. I reached the 5 milligram dose and stayed there, getting down to around 215 pounds. Then I lost coverage and it lasted close to 2 years. Essentially, I couldn't afford the tirzepatide, and the coupon did not work. Honestly, I didn't regain weight quickly. By the end of 2 years, I crept back up to 235 to 240 pounds. At this point in my life, I had doubled my income, which allowed me to afford a weight loss company. In short, that's what I did. By managing my own doses and ignoring the Beyond You state, I have maintained a dose of 1 to 2 milligrams per week for about 1.5 years of tirzepatide. I feel hungry and sometimes snack, and my blood glucose can be a bit unpredictable, but I now weigh 190 pounds. I can exercise well, my knees feel good, and I have a spring in my step. I effectively mitigate most side effects. I have enough medication for about 2 years of titration, but even now, if I miss a dose, I hardly notice it. I don't have the food noise, and I don't experience side effects. In my honest opinion, I believe we sometimes start our doses of GLP-1 receptor agonists too high for some people. I think they are great medications. They have helped me immensely. I would love to navigate the process of obtaining them without all the red tape, but I understand why it exists since many people have significant issues with these medications. I am knowledgeable enough to avoid complications and benefit from them, but this is not the case for many of my patients. We need better management for these individuals by healthcare providers like me. However, I do not get those opportunities. Story 17. I lost 80 pounds. I feel great. I can play with my kids and go for walks without feeling like I ran a marathon. Along with the weight loss, it's important to mention what I gained: sobriety. After 12 years of alcoholism, I no longer want to be around the smell of alcohol. It's not that it's triggering. It just smells awful to me. This change saved my life. Story 18. I was a functioning alcoholic, but I don't drink alcohol anymore. I take Wegovy and have been on it for about 5 months. I've lost 27 pounds, starting at 255 pounds and now weighing 228 pounds, and it hasn't been hard. Imagine not thinking about alcohol ever. If you're a drinker, you know what the craving is like. It's insidious. Just 1 or 2 drinks after work to settle down, a few beers with dinner, a few more shots while watching television with my wife, and then a few nightcaps before bed. Before I knew it, I was consuming 10 to 15 drinks a day. I'm a blue-collar middle-class guy, and this experience changed my life. I used to drink about half a gallon of liquor a week, not including beer. I've had the same half gallon on my shelf for 2 months, and it's not even half gone. I've probably had 10 beers in the same 2 months. If you're like me, find a provider and talk to them about this medication. Feel free to direct message me with any questions. Story 19. I might be one of the few who experienced lasting negative side effects. I was clinically obese, affected by type 2 diabetes, and struggling in life. I was prescribed Ozempic, and I had many side effects along with significant pain. I lost 100 pounds, but now I suffer from a condition called gastroparesis. It is challenging and not worth it. I would prefer to have my health back. This pain is unbearable. However, I am very happy to hear about the success stories emerging from this treatment. It is wonderful to see that it is changing people's lives for the better. If it works for you, go for it. Story 20. I take Mounjaro for type 2 diabetes. I don't eat as much because I feel full all the time. Story 21. I recommend avoiding greasy food on the day of or after injecting to prevent sulfur burps, farts, and an upset stomach. Story 22. I have been on Ozempic for about 6 months now. It has lowered my blood sugar levels, and I have lost some weight as well. I often find that in the middle of a meal, I feel satisfied and can stop eating without finishing my entire plate. If I overeat, I feel uncomfortable. I also experience constipation and nausea. I ensure I drink plenty of fluids, mainly water and diet soda, and consume fiber either as supplements or in my diet. Bran muffins are great. As long as I have a bowel movement at least every other day, I am not too concerned about it. I can really see a difference in my face and neck due to the weight loss. Overall, it has been beneficial for me, but if I did not have good insurance, I would probably need to stop. Who knows, if my weight loss continues, I might be able to reduce or stop my use of Ozempic. Being overweight makes me insulin resistant, and while I produce insulin, it was not sufficient when I weighed 250 pounds and still is not enough at 200 pounds. If I reach 165 pounds and continue eating as I do on Ozempic, I could likely reduce the dose of most of my diabetes medications, including Ozempic. Story 23. Zepbound, Mounjaro here. I will be celebrating 6 months in 2 weeks. I have lost 52 pounds since I started. The food cravings have disappeared, and my A1C is no longer in the pre-diabetic range. My cholesterol levels were normal for the first time in several years. I do experience occasional gastrointestinal issues, such as slow or fast digestion, sulfur burps, and reflux, but these have been managed with simple over-the-counter remedies. If you are considering this option, I recommend giving it a chance. I feel better, have a positive outlook on life, and can focus on things other than food. Story 24. I'm tempted to try one of these, but often I don't eat because I'm hungry, although I do eat big portions. I eat because of boredom. Does this still help? Story 25. Legitimately life-changing. Date: June 1st, 2024. Weight: 300 pounds. Date: July 1st, 2024. Weight: 280 pounds. Date: August 1st, 2024. Weight: 260 pounds. Current weight: 238 pounds. I have always known how much your mind plays into your desire to eat, but I was not prepared for it to actually go away. It's so jarring, and I noticed it immediately the next day after my first dose. The hunger was just absent. That initial 40 pounds came off so easily by going to 1 meal a day and increasing my walking. 1 meal a day was easy because I couldn't eat lunch even if I wanted. Some days I had to force myself to eat, knowing I wasn't getting enough. Since that initial loss, I did run into some common digestive issues that many people face. Between then and now, I lowered my dose and went off completely for a while, but I've been able to either maintain or continue losing more slowly. I'm back up to my maximum dose, and the digestive issues have seemingly just disappeared within the last couple of weeks. I have a goal I'm looking to hit for the 1-year anniversary, so I have a lot of work to do to improve my fitness and habits. The key thing is that this made it so much easier to get here. I cannot stress enough how much of a difference it has made. Even though I'm not where I want to end up yet, it has made life so much more enjoyable. I can look in the mirror now and not just feel disappointment in myself. Traveling, in particular, has been way more fun too. My thoughts now are that I wish everyone who could benefit from it could have access to it, especially financially. If you can get it, then do it. Story 26. I have a question for those in this thread, if it's okay to follow up. Before starting these medications, did you consume many processed foods? I have read about the connection between glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonists and fiber along with polyphenol. I am curious how much these foods were part of your diet before you began the medication and if that has changed since then. High-fiber foods include lentils, black beans, chickpeas, oats, chia seeds, raspberries, pears, broccoli, carrots, whole wheat bread, and more. High polyphenol foods include blueberries, strawberries, red grapes, apples, spinach, red onions, black olives, dark chocolate, green tea, and coffee. Processed foods remove both fiber and polyphenol, meaning that the appetite regulation effects they have are absent from most people's diets. Story 27. I was on Wegovy for about a year and a half and then Zepbound for about 6 months. I had a smooth experience. I didn't have any severe side effects, just a bit of queasiness if I ate too much. My goal was to lose weight gradually and to build good habits rather than follow a strict diet. I went from 335 to 275 during that time. One other benefit I was surprised by was that it dramatically decreased my compulsive skin picking issue that I had struggled with since childhood. I didn't even have to try. I just noticed one day that I hadn't done it in a while. In addition to losing weight, I can wear sleeveless shirts for the first time since the Clinton administration because my upper arms aren't covered in bloody scabs. It's probably the same mechanism that helps reduce alcoholism and other compulsive behaviors. Unfortunately, my health insurance stopped covering glucagon-like peptide-1 medications for weight loss this year, so things are different. I'm trying really hard not to damage my skin again. It's a little easier now that it's had a chance to heal. My weight loss doctor has me on topiramate now, which definitely comes with worse side effects than the glucagon-like peptide ones, such as forgetting words, the inability to taste carbonation, fatigue, tingling, and occasional episodes of Alice in Wonderland syndrome. However, it does help me maintain my weight. I'm grateful for the approach I took. When I was on glucagon-like peptide-1 medications, I developed the habit of eating like a normal person instead of taking advantage of the ability to eat very little. So the adjustment isn't impossible now that the hunger has returned. Story 28. I was on it for about 6 to 7 months last year. It was great to silence food noise and help me build healthy habits. I lost a total of about 70 pounds. One of the things my doctor told me when starting was that I needed to do strength training to avoid losing muscle and fat. I found that powerlifting is hugely therapeutic for me, and I'm actually pretty good at it. Since stopping, I've maintained the weight loss by keeping up with a calorie deficit and working out 6 days a week. I discovered an outlet that I had previously used food to manage, and I feel much better. I can also fit into a lot of old band t-shirts, which is awesome. Story 29. Down 30 pounds. No impulse or desire for any of the following: overeating, drinking alcohol, sports betting. Story 30. I have some questions for those using it. I'm thin and have never gone above 140 pounds. I recently quit smoking marijuana after 8 years of chronic use, and cigarettes are going to be next. This all requires willpower, self-control, and discipline, which I haven't mustered up enough for nicotine yet, but quitting marijuana was really tough. The reason I ask this is that medications like Ozempic seem to be a shortcut to gaining some form of self-control. People aren't mentally changing their relationship with food and how they control it. They are taking medication to do the heavy lifting for them. What happens when your weight goal is reached? Are you on this medication for the rest of your life? Do you believe you won't have the same eating habits you had before? It seems like a medicinal form of gastric bypass, suggesting that not eating is too hard, so people opt for surgery instead. These questions are not meant to be dismissive. They come from someone who has never struggled with weight or food and doesn't understand the thought process behind it. Story 31. I was on compounded semaglutide for 4 months and lost a total of 32 pounds. I had to stop due to some side effects. Since then, I have regained 23 pounds over 6 months. In the last month, I have restarted tracking my calories and have begun losing weight again. The glucagon-like peptide-1 was effective at reducing food cravings and increasing my feelings of fullness. I found it easier to make healthier food choices because it helped me stop overeating. My desire to drink was significantly reduced, which was very nice as well. Now that I have been off it for a while, I find it much harder to stick to my caloric requirements, as I am constantly thinking about what I can eat for the day and almost never feel satisfied. Story 32. I started Saxenda in January last year and lost 15 kilograms. There was a shortage over Christmas, so I gained back 5 kilograms in 2 months. I switched to Mounjaro and have lost 6 to 7 kilograms more on a low dose. I have great hope for further weight loss as I get closer to the full dosage. I have thyroid issues that caused me to gain 30 kilograms, which I couldn't get rid of before. I've learned the term food noise, which is incredibly insightful. That persistent voice telling you to eat a couple of sandwiches before bed or buy a chocolate bar while shopping is gone. If you haven't experienced that, it's hard to understand its power. In addition to the diet, my cravings for alcohol and luxury shopping have also decreased. The medication is expensive, but in the long run, I'm probably saving money. After reviewing many studies, it seems that people tend to lose a lot of muscle if they're not careful. So, if you're considering any of these medications, make sure to establish a gym habit as well. I firmly believe that GLP drugs are nothing short of revolutionary. We're only at the beginning. Story 33. Mounjaro. I have lost 50 pounds and have been using it for 2 years. I have experienced some nausea that occurs occasionally, but it is manageable. You will lose the hunger pangs and quickly feel full while eating. I recommend it, but I wonder about any potential long-term implications or side effects. Additionally, you may lose muscle mass and strength, so plan to work out if you want to minimize that loss. Story 34. I have been on Ozempic for about a year now. The weight loss has tapered off, but I did lose 50 pounds. I feel great, and it's been liberating not thinking about food all the time. I also had to start drinking Metamucil, which isn't horrible, but it is a chore for me, and I am tired of the taste. Story 35. I know someone who was on the minimum dose of Zepbound and went from 180 to 125 pounds. Their experience was not typical, I think. It also helped with their obsessive-compulsive disorder, which is an interesting connection between the brain and gut. Story 36. I have lost about 7 pounds in 4 weeks on Ozempic. In the first week, I felt mild appetite suppression. I usually crave sweets, but not while on this medication. When I drink alcohol, anything more than one drink makes me feel nauseous. Now, in my 4th week after increasing the dose, I am experiencing the effects the most. I have appetite suppression, nausea, mild stomach pain, and I need to drink plenty of water. Overall, I am happy that I started this journey. Last year, I was at the same weight despite working out consistently and eating healthily most of the time. However, there were days when I indulged in unhealthy foods which kept me at the same weight. Then I decided to try Ozempic. I have noticed results since the first week, and my mindset around food is changing. I am focusing on maximizing protein, fiber, and nutrients in each meal because I don't eat much. Alcohol and sweets are not as appealing. I also avoid snacking and refrain from eating anything after 6 or 7 p.m. since food sitting in my stomach makes it hard to sleep. My body does not have much fat to lose. My main struggle is my relationship with food, particularly eating for comfort. This experience has significantly helped in changing that. Story 37. After 2 years on Ozempic, I lost 25 kilograms. I never increased my dose beyond 1 milligram, and I don't drink as much as I used to. Just 2 beers and I'm done. I feel full after eating, which was never possible before. I developed a hemorrhoid after the first 2 months and have been diagnosed with vitamin B12 deficiency, for which I am in treatment. Overall, I am very satisfied. Story 38. I have been on Mounjaro for about a year. I lost 40 pounds before taking it, starting it as a way to manage diabetes. Since I began, I have not lost any weight. I stopped taking it because my insurance changed, which caused me to gain 10 pounds, and my average blood sugar increased. I am back on it at a higher dose and still have not lost any weight, but my average blood sugar is around 100, which is why I take it. The benefit is that I have not gained weight while on it. I feel full sooner, so I don't eat large meals. I am not sure why I haven't lost any weight given this. I do notice a reduction in food cravings, which I appreciate. Story 39. It really helps with my hunger and binge eating. I have also experienced no side effects, as I was close to being diabetic, which may contribute to the effectiveness. Story 40. It's amazing. I'm on a weight loss medication. My biggest problem was not so much eating all the time, but rather having a really big meal once a day. I've dropped 40 pounds from 225, and all my blood work has improved significantly. Cholesterol is down and blood sugar is better. Interestingly, I was having a conversation with a very close friend this summer, and it turns out he did his Doctor of Philosophy on glucagon-like peptide 120 years ago. So, thank you, buddy. I could not recommend these medications enough for anyone struggling with weight. Story 41. I have been on Ozempic for 4 months now and have lost 40 pounds. The side effects only really started when my dosage was increased, including either constipation or extremely loose stools and almost constant nausea in the mornings. I have reduced my dosage and it is improving slightly. A significant factor is that it helps control overeating during meals and suppresses hunger. I never used to walk away from a meal with food left on my plate. I just did not feel full unless I really overindulged. Now I can better recognize when it is time to put the fork down and understand that I do not need to finish my meal. Story 42. I am in fantastic shape, but I am always hungry. It is quite annoying. If I gave in, I know I wouldn't be happy with myself, but at least I wouldn't be hungry. It feels like literal purgatory. Story 43. Daily probiotic supplements have significantly helped with my sulfur gas and bowel issues. I highly recommend this for anyone on similar medications. Do not take fiber. I have been on Zepbound for 4 months and have lost over 30 pounds. I am well past my lowest weight from when I tried a very strict diet a few years ago. I found that I crave food much less often, and when I do eat, I feel full sooner after only a modest amount of food. In the past, I craved food all the time and often snacked out of boredom or stress. When I started the medication, I noticed that the positive effects seemed to wear off in the last day or two of the dose. However, now the effects seem to help me throughout the week. I am unsure how much of that is due to the medication dosage or my adaptation. My doctor has prescribed a higher dose only when the previous dosage becomes less effective at measurable weight loss, which has resulted in losing only 2 to 3 pounds over a month. I believe this has helped reduce the negative side effects significantly. I do not know if this approach is common, as I have heard of others taking the quickest route to the highest dose and increasing it every month. Story 44. The start was not very pleasant. I experienced waves of nausea for the first couple of days each week following the shot. Trial and error taught me that there is no pushing through it when it comes to overeating. Previously, during occasions like Thanksgiving or any outing, I would be full but think, I can finish this, and then waddle away feeling stuffed and happy. With this, I get one warning. If I ignore the signal to stop eating, I get sick. I have been told it slows down digestion, and it honestly feels like it just sits in my throat, right at the bottom. To me, it feels like trying to overfill a cup. It just overflows. That uncomfortable, overflowing feeling can last quite a while. The urge to eat has diminished, but I cannot say whether it is entirely due to the GLP-1 medication or the numerous other medications I am on that can be used to treat binge eating and depression. I will wake up, and most of the time I won't eat until around 5 p.m. Usually, I won't even think about food. I still like candy and similar treats, though. I have adjusted to consuming very small amounts of high-calorie food. I'm pretty sure I was living on sweet tarts for an entire month. Don't do this. The caveat is that if I push too hard against ignoring the urge to eat, I will hit a cliff where I experience intense hunger pangs, and it happens quickly. 1 minute I will be minding my own business, and the next it feels as if I have been fasting for a week. Overall, I have to say that this medication has done wonders for me and my wife. I do hate that I can almost never get dessert at a restaurant unless it is the only thing I order, which I have done. I have hit a plateau and have been here for about 6 months. I know that exercise is the missing link to progress further, and I will address that soon. Story 45. It's sweet. I've lost about 45 pounds since November. I was initially very aggressive with limiting my eating. In the past, I lost 70 pounds just by dieting alone, but it is easier to diet when you feel discomfort from overeating. It has quieted the urge to eat out of boredom or desire. I no longer feel compelled to stop for fast food. It's now a genuine choice. My concern is that, like last time I lost weight, I haven't built any muscle and will likely regain weight once I stop using the medication. Story 46. My wife described it as eliminating unnecessary cravings. It didn't just help with food control, but in general. She isn't buying as much online, though she does shop for different reasons and in lesser volume. It has been a completely positive experience from her perspective, and she is really concerned about maintaining access to it. She feels more like herself, or so it seems. Story 47. I am 8 weeks into semaglutide, and it has been genuinely life-changing. I have struggled with mental health challenges that manifest as overeating. Along with constant cravings and persistent thoughts about food, this led to significant weight gain. Since starting, I have lost 19 pounds. I have battled with dieting, whatever the diet, I have probably tried it, and making lasting lifestyle changes for most of my life, but this is the first thing that has worked without leaving me feeling mentally drained. This time, it feels effortless, as if I am simply doing what I am meant to do. I do not feel upset about eating less or cutting out junk food. I do not feel weighed down by the idea of exercising. I have even joined my first in-person yoga class. The sense of peace this medication has brought is incredible. Side effects have been minimal for me. The worst so far has been some mild nausea after injecting and one unforgettable night after eating a Taco Bell quesadilla that ended with a lot of vomiting. Lesson learned. Story 48. It's great until you get off it and realize that you didn't change your lifestyle. You just added a medication and gained the weight back. Story 49. I have lost 100 pounds, from 252 to 151 in 9 months. This medication is truly a miracle, but my pet peeve is that people think that is all I had to do. Take the medication and become skinny. They tend to overlook the part where I go to the gym 6 days a week for 2.5 hours a day, drink a gallon of water every day, and have stopped drinking soda and eating junk food in favor of a healthier diet. I use this medication as a tool to help me develop healthy habits, but those who are unaware of its effects think it did all the work for me and that I am lazy. Because of this, I do not even tell people when they ask how I achieved my weight loss. I got tired of the judgmental looks and backhanded compliments. I simply advise them to eat healthier and work out. Story 50. I have been on first Ozempic and then Wegovy for 8 months now. It is not an easy way to lose weight, as people often think, especially if you experience side effects like I do. I am constantly nauseous and always need to have water with me because I randomly start gagging. Sometimes I have to vomit after eating, even if I don't necessarily eat as much as I did the day before. I also have the weirdest dreams, which are a side effect that you are not warned about. With these strange dreams, I tend not to sleep well. Wegovy has significantly worse side effects than Ozempic did, but I can get Wegovy partially covered by my insurance. That said, it's worth feeling unwell for me. For the first time in my adult life, I am actually losing a noticeable amount of weight. The reduction in food cravings is also substantial. You do not really notice the distraction of that in your mind until it is gone. I can see why they are researching these medications to help individuals with substance use disorders. It is remarkable how much your mind whispers to you about food, often without you even realizing it. I wish people would stop speaking negatively about those who take this medication. It is truly life-changing for many people. No one should be shamed for using it. Story 51. I have been using Ozempic since July. I have lost 55 pounds and am very close to my goal weight. I am not as hungry anymore. If I eat too much, I feel terrible. I no longer have the urge to snack. I no longer crave late-night treats. Alcohol tastes good for one drink but doesn't affect me much after that. The only mild side effect I experience is a slower digestive system, but I supplement with Metamucil gummies. Initially, I had some gastrointestinal discomfort, but that side effect has finally subsided. Story 52. I have been on Wegovy since June 2024 for weight and cholesterol management. I have lost 45 pounds, bringing my body mass index to a normal range, and my cholesterol has decreased from very high to normal. The nausea was quite intense for a few months and still occurs occasionally, but I am tolerating it much better now. My doctor has prescribed Zofran for use as needed, which helps significantly. I rarely feel hungry and never enough to eat what I would consider a full meal. I used to reach for food constantly when distracted, but that no longer happens. I am simply not interested. Story 53. Mounjaro is much better than Wegovy. It has almost no side effects and feels more natural. I lost 20 pounds and stopped taking blood pressure medication. My glucose levels and cholesterol have improved without any changes to my routine. This is a miracle drug. The only downside is that it is so effective that I need to exercise to avoid losing muscle mass. Story 54. I have been taking tirzepatide for around 8 months. I am someone with challenging genetics and a slow metabolism. I have always had to work harder than my peers to lose weight. I have now gained and lost over 40 pounds for the fourth time in my life because it takes so much effort. That said, if you're like me, none of these glucagon-like peptide 1 medications are magic drugs that make you lose weight on their own. I have used them as a supplement to a strict diet and frequent exercise. They primarily reduce feelings of hunger. However, it is still possible to overeat while on them and not lose weight. When I tried Ozempic, I had only lost about 5 to 8 pounds over 2 months. On tirzepatide, when combined with diet and exercise, I am now down 65 pounds. I am about 10 pounds away from my goal, which is to see my abs for the first time. My process includes a tirzepatide injection once a week. I only eat dinner, skipping all other meals and not snacking during the day. I also weigh my meals to ensure they do not exceed 12 to 15 ounces, which is much easier than calorie counting and helps prevent overeating. I aim for that 12 to 15 ounces to be healthy food. If you consistently eat takeout, it may still be too much. After dinner, I have very low-calorie snacks, such as veggie straws and low-calorie pudding, but not excessively. I complement this with weightlifting 2 to 3 times a week and an hour of cardio 2 to 3 times a week on days when I'm still sore from the weights. Yes, it still struggles, just like dieting does. The hardest part is the lack of energy when it comes time to work out. However, I prefer this over the persistent hunger I previously experienced while trying to lose weight without any aids. Let me know if you have any other questions. Story 55. It worked well. I lost weight and my blood sugar levels were good. However, I developed a bowel obstruction. The doctor said if I continued, it would happen again. I feel really jealous of those who don't experience that side effect. Story 56. I have been on it since last August and I have lost about 15 pounds. My dose was gradually increased, and now I am losing about 3 to 4 pounds a month. I feel nauseous frequently and experience bad heartburn. However, it does quiet the cravings for food. Story 57. I was on Wegovy. Regarding my appetite, it felt like it normalized me. I experienced reflux and low heart rate variability, which led to an increased resting heart rate. I stopped using it, but I regularly think about getting back on it. The price was also a significant factor in my decision to quit. Story 58. It is the only medicine that has ever stabilized my blood sugar and subsequently helped my blood pressure. Oddly, I now get extremely bloated if I eat onion or garlic, which I used to eat and enjoy often before starting Ozempic. That is the only real consequence. Story 59. I have been on Ozempic for just under a year for type 2 diabetes. I have experienced a large range of side effects, especially nausea, diarrhea, and heartburn. Usually, it's one at a time. My A1C dropped from about 7.5 to 6.0, and I have lost about 80 pounds. This is partly because I now only eat 2 meals a day, partly because I am exercising more, and partly due to the nausea. Story 60. I use Mounjaro for my diabetes as a type 1 diabetic. I don't produce insulin and I am also insulin resistant. Mounjaro is great for my needs. Story 61. I started taking Ozempic in December of last year, starting at a small dose of 2.5 milligrams and now on 5 milligrams. There has been no weight loss, but I feel fuller, and my desire to eat has decreased. Allegedly, the dosage should have been increased faster, but we will see. Story 62. I have lost about 15 pounds over 3 months. It definitely reduces your appetite. My side effects were not insignificant. I sometimes feel nauseous, and it has made exercise a bit more challenging. Can also affect your bowel movements slightly. However, I believe it is worth it. I recommend doing it under the supervision of a real doctor that you can see in person, rather than through mail order. Story 63. I took the Ozempic pill, but it didn't work well. Out of 6 weeks on full strength, it was effective for only 2 days. It took a while to start. You begin with a quarter dose and then increase to a half dose to avoid side effects. I had to stop using the full dose due to diarrhea and vomiting. It wasn't worth it since it only reduced my appetite for 2 days. Story 64. Wegovy here. I've lost 35 pounds in 14 weeks. I feel a lot better physically and mentally. The only downside is that I can't eat junk food in a hurry. It makes me feel terrible. I know it's healthier for me, but sometimes I just want a cheat meal. Story 65. I was on it for a month and lost nearly 10 pounds. I couldn't continue because insurance wouldn't cover it. I'm going to try to get back on it now that I've switched insurance. It's actually a great fit for my situation because it works as an appetite suppressant, which is my main issue. I eat mostly healthy food and work out frequently, but I can easily eat 3 plates in a sitting, which is difficult to manage. Story 66. I started using semaglutide last year after gaining weight due to a motorcycle crash injury to my hip that required surgery. I switched to tirzepatide in December. Overall, I have gone from 227 pounds down to 190 pounds with no changes to my diet, except for increased protein intake or behaviors. My goal is to reach 180 pounds so that I can regain some weight and hopefully be back in the low 190s. Side effects. About a month after starting the medication, it affected my stomach significantly. One day, I was unable to keep any food down without vomiting or experiencing diarrhea. This lasted about 3 weeks. I paused my dosage for 2 weeks, then restarted with the introductory dosage and have been fine since then. Apparently, this is not an entirely uncommon side effect. Unfortunately, I have also noticed significant muscle loss since switching to tirzepatide. I am not happy about that, but it can be addressed. A big bonus of the weight loss is a reduction in hip pain. I can walk further, and I experience far less frequent joint discomfort. It used to be almost daily, and now I would probably have to think back to last week to recall the last time I noticed discomfort in my hip. Story 67. I have lost 65 pounds, going from 296 to 231 since October 2023. It has changed my life. I was consumed by the thought of food. I would eat to the point of making myself sick. I would look for something to eat when I attended a party or visited someone's house. I didn't share food because I felt the need to eat. Now, I realize that I'm not actually hungry. I have another 15 to 20 pounds to lose, but I feel this journey has helped me reset my life and develop a healthier relationship with food. Story 68. I have lost 16 pounds since March 3rd. Some of that loss is due to a low-carb diet and being more aware of my eating habits and portion sizes. It also reduces the feeling of hunger, allowing me to feel fuller much quicker. I am currently taking 0.5 milligrams and have a plan to increase to 2.4 milligrams to reach my goal weight. I am looking forward to it. Story 69. So far, so good. I started 2 weeks ago. The effects are beginning to manifest, and I am not experiencing any major side effects. Just that food noticeably sits in my stomach for longer. Keeps me feeling full, although it may be a bit uncomfortable. I drink plenty of water and walk on my treadmill for 30 minutes in the evening to promote digestion. I haven't felt bloated at all the next day. This routine allows me to meet my daily calorie and macronutrient goals 7 days a week. I exercise 3 to 4 days a week to build and preserve muscle, and so far it has been easy. I have lost 8 pounds so far and feel like the progress has just begun. Story 70. 85 pounds down, which is great. As others have mentioned, it quiets the distractions related to food in my mind. Before taking Ozempic, I think I may have forgotten to eat a meal only once in my life. Since starting Ozempic, I forget to eat all the time. That being said, the nausea is unpleasant. The few times I have stopped taking it for a while, all my negative symptoms return, so I still have some behavioral changes to make if I want this to be permanent. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.